Hello, YouTube land. This is Brett and Son coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. Today we have John coming back. He had come on maybe a month or so ago and shared some stories from relatives and then his own personal encounters, and then a really crazy Dogman story about these people that actually changed into a Dogman right in front of his eyes. And anyway, that was a really good episode there. But John lives probably 30 minutes or so away from me. I've not got a chance to go see him or anything yet, but he's a fellow Kentuckian, and he's had a lot of these stories and encounters from the Kentucky area, which, you know, there's a lot of stories out there from Kentucky because of land of the lakes and all that kind of stuff. There's just a lot of activity in Kentucky. But anyway, we're going to let John tell some stories that he has gathered up recently from some more people, and a few things that's happened since the last time we talked. So let's just go right to it. And if anyone out there has a Bigfoot, Dogman encounter, or any kind of good supernatural or cryptid story, you can contact me at brettonson@gmail.com. So you just do that, and I will send you the information, and we'll get in contact and get you on the show. But anyway, let's go to John. How you doing today, John?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing excellent, man. I really I appreciate you coming back, man. And you had mentioned that you were going to gather up some stories from your relatives that kind of was holding back on you, and you know, some different people in your area. So anyway, I'm anxious to hear what you have found out.
All right. Well, before I start, I meant to do this in the first interview, and I totally forgot. I was commenting on a video. I can't remember which video it was, and I was trying to figure out how to get up with you. And one of your subscribers, Sun God Ra, ended up walking me through how to do it, and I didn't know who he was. And I later found out it was Q.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to tell him thanks, and that he's a good guy, and I really appreciate his help.
Yeah. Yeah. Q was kind of going incognito or something there for a little while, man. But he's coming out the woodwork a little bit more so now. But,
yeah. The voice, I've watched some of his videos, and it sounded awful familiar, but I couldn't quite place who he was. And then when I heard him back on your show recently, I said, that's who it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool that you figured that one out there. But, yeah, that's Q. So what have you found for us? What stories, and where did you find them? And give us all the good, juicy details, man.
Well, I was going to save one of the better ones for last, but I think I'm going to start with it because it is kind of hard to talk about, and I just want to go ahead and get it out of the way and not have to worry about telling it later.
Okay.
So I wanted to see my uncle up in Lee County, Kentucky, and it was actually about a week after the last interview, and we were sitting up there talking on his back porch one night, and he got a phone call, and this guy that he knew that was just a huge woodsman, he didn't even come to town. He never needed to come to town. He grew his own food, everything. And he called him one day, and that night, and he says, listen, I really need to come talk to you, man, and when can I come over? My uncle says, well, I'm just sitting here with my nephew. Come on out now if you want to. And he says, okay, man. And while we're waiting, my uncle begins to tell me a little bit about the guy because I've never met him. He goes, I've been hunting with this man for pretty much my entire life. He goes, we grew up together. And he said, this guy is one of those kind of people that is the best shot you can see in the world. He said he can go out deer hunting. He'll go out and maybe kill 4 deer, and said he'll come back with only 4 bullets less. He said every bullet that he hits usually is a kill with him. He said he's that good. And he just started telling me that he lives out in the middle of nowhere by himself and all kinds of stuff like that. So the guy gets there, and he says, Well, he goes, I just didn't know other way to say it, so I'm just going to come right out and tell you what happened to me about an hour ago. He goes, I was sitting out on my front porch and had my rifle laying there beside me because he said we do have bear and stuff like that, and it's just safe to have a gun on you outside. So he said I was sitting out there enjoying a cup of coffee, and I heard these howls start coming toward the house. He said, I thought it was maybe, he said, Bigfoot. I've seen him quite a few times out through here. He goes, I didn't think no more of it. I just said, oh, it's that Bigfoot, no good, just being nosy staring. He said, so I just kept on drinking my coffee. He said, and I noticed that it finally decided to step out of the tree line. He said, which is probably around, I think he said about 100 foot from his front porch. He said that he couldn't really tell nothing about it. He just said he'd seen the outline of something step out. And he said, oh, okay, he's just getting a little more familiar with me, so he's letting me know that, hey, here I am. He said, so I just kept on drinking my coffee and went back in the house to get another cup when I finished it. Come back out, and it was a lot closer. He said, at that point, I could see that it very clearly had what looked like a German shepherd's head. And I told him, I said, did it have like the pointy ears and all that? He said, just take a German shepherd's head, cut it off, put it on a tall man. He said, that right there is exactly what it was. And I told him about the Dogman thing, and he says, I've never heard of that, but it's about as good a name for it as any I've heard, I guess. So he started telling us that it started coming up toward him, and he felt like his life was in danger. He said, so I picked up my rifle, and just to make sure that it wasn't a human or nothing in a suit trying to scare me, he said, which nobody's going to come out and scare me, but I figured I'd do it. He said, I yelled, and I said, I have a very high-powered rifle. If you take one more step, I'm going to shoot you, and I will kill you when I shoot. And he said, so it took one more step, and I reluctantly said it again just to be safe. He said, and it didn't stop. It kept on walking toward me. He said, so I went off and shot right into its chest. He said, and I know it was a chest shot because I could see through the scope the blood actually come out of its chest when it hit, and it took off back into the woods.
Wow.
And he's sitting there telling us this, and of course I'm sitting there just looking at him. And he smiled, and he looks all at me and says, good way to meet each other, huh? And I'm like, yeah, it's interesting. I like it. I said, what else? And he goes, well, he said, I didn't see it no more. I just felt like I should maybe come tell somebody. And this guy, he was the kind that wasn't scared of nothing, but you could very plainly see fear in his eyes. And he was scared. And he said, what if I didn't kill it? What if I go back home tonight and it brings its friends, if it has any, or it may be the only one? What if I go home and they're waiting on me? And my uncle said, well, you don't have to go home. You know you can stay here tonight if you want to. We got a spare room. And he said, no, I ain't going to put nobody out. He said, if it happened, he said, if I do go back and they're there, I caused it because I shot. He said, and I'm willing to accept that. He said, I just really rather it not. So he goes on home, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, my uncle gets another call. We're still sitting on the porch talking, and it's him. And my uncle says, what's wrong? And I knew right then something wasn't right. And he put it on speaker, and the guy was saying, it's trying to get in. It's going to kill it. I think it's going to kill me. And he screamed a couple times, and after he screamed a couple times, we heard the front door set what sounded like it got hit with a sledgehammer. And you could actually hear the wood splinter off of it, and you could hear him scream, get away. And I did hear a gunshot, and then I heard a real loud growl, and the call went dead. So my uncle, he knew the sheriff really, really, really well. And he told him, he said, hey, something's going on, you need to get up there. And he goes, I'm going to go jump in my car. Me and my nephew, we're going to go jump in the car, and we'll meet you up there. So the sheriff beat us up there, stopped me and my uncle when we caught out of the car. He said, "You all need to go back." He said, "Don't call nobody. Don't do nothing." He said, "I will be there to talk to you." And my uncle said, "I didn't come all the way out here just to be sent back home. Now what's going on?" And he goes, "I can't tell you." He goes, "There's things here, there's people here that has basically told me to lock down the scene, and I can't let you all in." And right at that time, we seen two guys in suits come walking out of the house, and my uncle automatically just looked at me and said, "Uh-oh." He said, "I know exactly what they are." He said, "I don't even have to meet them. I know who they are. I can tell you that right now." I looked at him, and he goes, "The FBI, aren't they?" I looked at the sheriff, and he goes, yeah. He goes, you all can't be here." And my uncle just happens to look down, because we're not that far from the front door. And when my uncle looks down, he kind of nudges me and kind of looks up at the sheriff with his eyes and makes that signal like, "Look down." So we both looked down, just trying to do it without being noticed. And I saw a canine paw print that was probably about as big as my hand. And my uncle said, "Is he okay?" We pretty much knew that he probably wasn't going to be, though. And the sheriff goes, "I'm going to tell you this, then you got to promise me you got to go home, and I'll be there, talk to you, tell you whatever I can." My uncle said, "All right, man, I'll do that." And he goes, "We honestly don't know if he's okay or not." And my uncle just kind of looks at him and says, "What the heck do you mean you don't know if he's okay? Is he in there? Is he alive?" And he goes, "Part of him's in there." And my uncle just looks at him and he goes, "All we found is his foot. That's all that's in there." He said, "And a lot of blood." He said, "That's all we found."
Dang.
And we heard some vehicles pulling up behind us. So we turn around and look, and it's the news team pulling up. Well, automatically the two guys walk over. They basically just point down the road and tell them to go back where they come from, that they wouldn't welcome there. And they ended up turning around and leaving. They didn't even have time to get out of their van or nothing. And we got a call later that night from the sheriff, and he basically told us that he couldn't come out, that he couldn't tell us nothing, that he said, "I just can't do it. I'm not allowed." He said, "I can't, man. I'm sorry. I know I gave you my word." He said, "Maybe one day I can." He said, "But right now it's just, I can't." He said, "We were sworn not to say nothing, and I honestly think we're being watched to make sure we don't go tell people." He said, "I can't do it."
No, well, how did the FBI people know that quickly?
That's something I'm not sure on. The sheriff said he was, that once before that they'd had a weird case that the FBI had been out before, and they told him if anything unusual happened again to let them know that they'd be out. He said, and he did tell us this, he said, "Guys, I didn't even dial their number yet." He said, "I had my phone out getting ready to push send, and they just showed up." He said, "It's like they were tracking the thing." He said, "It's like they knew where it was." He said, "And they're up there saying it's a bear." He said, "I know very good well that's no bear."
Well, they maybe would monitor the communications or something. Now, the land between the lakes has had cases like that, where I had someone email me earlier today and ask me about the land between the lakes, in Kentucky here. If it was true that those people were found, all dismembered and stuff like that. And I said, as far as I know, that's a true story, man. Happened, there at the land between the lakes. And, and other people have had encounters like that here. I have one story from a guy, a Sasquatch story from a guy that I interviewed down in southern Kentucky. I think southwest or southeast Kentucky, I think. And he told a story about them being one of his family members that he, a close family member, like his mom or his aunt or something like that. But they were in the store, and there were some state park kind of people and sheriff and some other people at this table that were eating, and they were talking about finding a squatch that had deceased on a property, and they had basically got it and shipped it to Frankfurt. So so there's stuff that goes on around here. Maybe they monitor an area that's hot spots or something. I don't know. But anyway, that's a scary.
There's another guy we know, me and my uncle, and he is the same kind of person as the one who got attacked. He's just out in the woods, just to himself, and he is a ex-FBI agent. And he did tell us that, he said, look, he goes, everybody knows that the FBI knows that this stuff is real. He goes, their official statement is, we don't have an official statement. He goes, but my official statement is, they know. He said, they know well.
Yeah. Wow. So was this person who basically foot was found? This was who your uncle was talking to this person? You and your uncle?
Yeah, he was a real good guy too. He was, yeah.
So he was just a friend?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is like what county?
Lee County.
Lee County. Okay. Kurt Stokes had a huge Dogman encounter at Taylorsville Lake. I had an encounter with I believe it was a Sasquatch encounter down at Dale Holla on the Kentucky side, where that lake straddles Tennessee and Kentucky. So, yeah, man, there's some crazy stuff in this state for sure. But, man, did they report the guy missing, or did they try to cover that up, or what did they do on that?
As far as I know, nothing's ever been said about him ever again. But the sheriff did end up letting my uncle know, my uncle let me know after I come home, that they did swab the blood that they found in the house, and every bit of it come back as that man's. That every single drop of it was basically his. And they said that they still not even felt the rest of him. All that they ever felt was an ankle and a foot. That's it.
Yeah. Well, that kind of sounds similar to the case that the Dark Waters guy had, the siege at Lockett Ranch or whatever it was called. I think yeah.
Yeah, I listened to that, and
yeah,
it was one of them things where I couldn't wait till the rest of the parts come out to
it. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's crazy, wasn't it? But yeah, they came to the house, man, and they were serious. They weren't there to play, So when they started messing with the Dogman's territory, and then trying to kill them, that's when the war started, and that was a very interesting story for sure. Man, that's jacked up stuff there, man, for sure.
And everybody that knew this guy, they know automatically that it wasn't no bear. They said because this guy right here, he wouldn't have been that bear may have got a swipe at him. They said, but he would have either shot it or he had plenty of knives on him at all times, and he could have handled it easily. They said he could have handled it.
Yeah.
And the rest of the people that I talked to that knew him, they said that he was the kind of guy that he didn't have much, but if you needed anything, if he had it, it was yours.
Right. Huh. Well, Well, I mean, if they only found a foot, I don't think there's going to be no good news come for that case, for sure.
No. I almost wonder if they did find more and they just didn't say, or if that was the truth that they just found his foot.
I don't know. Hard saying. But anyway, I guess you'll just have to wait. Maybe that guy tell you more later down the road. You know.
I'm hoping he will. I'm hoping once he kind of retires, and because I think the reason that he wouldn't go ahead and tell us is because he was afraid of his job. Because I mean, he's got a family, he's got to feed them, and
yeah.
I think that that's the only reason he didn't go ahead and say it. So I think when he finally retires, he'll say something.
Yeah, there was a case similar to that on Sasquatch Chronicles. The dude did kind of push it a little bit too much, and then kept going and going back out to the scene and digging. And he lost his job, and he couldn't get a job as a police officer no more. So yeah, he's doing. If he wants to have a job doing that, he has to not say nothing, or they'll ruin him. I mean, I know that that's the deal for real. That happens. So whether or not people want to believe the story or not, I'm telling you, if officers are involved in a case like that, they do have people that cover it up, and if they talk and if they dig, trying to figure more out, then they will lose their jobs, and they won't be able to get another one in that field. Yeah. You'll have to change fields, that's for sure. Well, let's move on.
This proves that there is something going on, because why else would they go through such great lengths to basically make you look like an idiot?
Yeah.
And they wouldn't. They wouldn't sure. They'd be like, oh, let them tell it, but nobody's going to believe them.
When I had Mark Zaxby on, he was standing right there when the cops or whatever, parks people and all that were there investigating 2 campsites. 2 people had come up missing, and he asked, what was going on, and they said, well, there's a couple people's come up missing. And basically he said that one of them had been found dead, but they wouldn't say what had happened, and they couldn't, and the other one was never found, and they weren't even from the same campsite. They were at this campground in Florida, where Mark does investigating on Bigfoot and finds them too, and basically he said it was never in the news or nothing, and so yeah. He said, you would think.
That's the same thing with this. I expected, them to say that, at least put it on the news that a bear got him or a dog attacked. I expected them to do something.
Yeah. No, they won't.
But
they won't.
That's just, I don't know. That's just, to me, that's a disrespect to the person, because they deserve to at least have something told, other than just basically be washed away like they're nothing. That's not right.
Well, that's key. That's key to covering it up, though, because when I had that one girl on who talked about the 2 Sasquatch that broke the door in and took the old lady, she said that was never, that never did show up in the news as a story that she knew of. Of course, she was a kid at the time, but if they can keep it out of the news, then when someone tells the story of what they saw, then, people will be looking for a missing persons case to try to prove her story right or wrong or whatever. And that's how they can say, that person's just telling a lie, is because you can go look and you aren't going to find a missing persons case or what have you. And even in the 411 deal, that guy asked for files on these missing people, and he couldn't get them, So Pilates never could get the files on those people. So, and, a few of the cases end up.
Because I've always felt that the government knows stuff that they're not going to tell. But I mean, I never actually, seen any proof of it myself to know for sure. But that night when we were getting back in the truck, I just happened to look up, and I seen them looking at the footprint where we'd seen it. And I seen one of the guys take a picture of it, and then he took his foot and smoothed it over like it was never there. And I'm like, yeah, there's something to it.
Right. Yeah. Well,
because they're not just going to take away evidence like that unless they got a reason. There's something behind it.
Right. No, they would be covering up. Those people wouldn't have been there anyway unless they were covering it up. But let's move on to another story, I guess, and the viewers can think what they will about that one, I guess. Let's move on to another one.
Well, it's one of them things. I've heard people say it before. Nobody has to believe me. All I can say very simply is, I know what I heard. I know what we seen there, and I don't have any trouble believing that that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you heard the dude tell you what he saw and what he shot and what he was concerned about. For you,
Yeah. And with him, if he was 100, well, if he was 1,000% sure he actually hit it, he would say, I may have hit it.
Yeah.
But my uncle told me he does not miss.
Right. Yeah, well. But anyway, that I believe he hit it if he shot at it, Especially people up in them neck of the woods, they're hunters, they know they can shoot. I mean,
yeah.
They a lot of times feed themselves with hunting. You can't be missing all the time and eat.
See, that's the way he was. He'd go out, and him and my uncle would go out probably about once a month, and they'd kill maybe 4 apiece of deer. And he'd just my uncle would end up just taking one because they really didn't eat it, and he'd just take it back and clean them and put all the meat into a big deep freeze. So he'd have food to last him as long as he needed.
Yeah. Right.
And then if people needed food or something like that, he'd donate it to people and stuff like that.
Yeah. And boy, that venison's some good stuff if you cook it right,
Yeah.
For real. Well, let's take a break and then we'll come back to this, okay?
Okay.
All right. All right, we're back now, and from a little break. Let's go on to the other stories that you have collected, and these are Bigfoot stories. So let's hear what stories you have found in your area.
Me and my uncle was walking to see this guy that he knows. He's an old moonshiner, and I'd always had a suspicion that the moonshiners probably up in there had more experiences than anybody else, because they live out in the middle of nowhere and they're around that kind of thing all the time. And my uncle found a couple that was willing to tell us what they'd seen, and we go back to this guy's house, and he invites us in. We sit down on his porch, and he starts telling us the Bigfoots he's seen, and he says, I guarantee you one thing, instead of explaining it to you and describing what I saw, he said, if you guys really want to know what I've seen, I can take you out there. He said, because it's a guaranteed thing. You're going to hear one, you're going to see one, or you're going to feel one for sure. He said, that's a promise. And me and my uncle, of course, looked at each other and we're like, sure, let's go right now. And he goes, all right. So he goes in, gets his shotgun out, and takes us out. And within 5-10 minutes, we started hearing the brush breaking on one side of us, and he said, did you hear that? And my uncle goes, yeah. And he goes, what's different about that? And kind of looks at my uncle like he was testing him. And he goes, that's 2 feet, that's not 4 feet. And he kind of looks at him and smiles and goes, that's right, they're right over there. And he said, and if you look very slowly, he said, don't make it noticeable. He said, just kind of look out of the corner of your eye. You'll probably see one. So me and my uncle both kind of look out of the corner of our eye. And right about that time that we actually look out of the corner of our eye, we see a section of 3 trees that's kind of got a little bit of separation from the rest. And from each of the 3 trees, we see 3 heads peeking around the tree, all different sizes. Some of them, one of them was a little bit small, like maybe it was a baby one, and then 2 of the bigger ones. And we just kind of looked back at him, and he goes, look again. And we kind of looked back, and they stepped out a little more, and you could see 1 leg, 1 arm, and their full face. And we just kind of looked at him and said, okay, we've seen enough, we're ready to go. And he goes, but you all said y'all really wanted to see him. He said, so what we're going to do, we're going to keep going for about 5-10 more minutes. He goes, and I'm not saying that you guys have to stay out here. He said, if y'all get scared and you want to go back, he said, let me know. He goes, I just want you to come out here and give it the chance. Kind of look at each other and like having a silent conversation, and we're like, okay, sure. So we start walking a little farther down, and he says, okay, I'm going to stop right here for a minute. You 2 take about 10 steps forward. Look down over the hill. He said, there's a lake down there. He said, they like to hang out down there. He said, I don't know why, but sometimes you'll see a couple down there. And he says, so if you look down the angle that we're at right now, there's no trees because they've been bulldozed. So to make a pass, so we can get down in there and stuff and fish. So we start looking, and sure enough, there's one squatted down by the lake. It's almost like it was washing its hands or something, maybe. I don't know. It may have been catching a fish. I don't know. And we stood there for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, I'm guessing. And it finally just stood up and walked back to the left a little bit, and it just vanished into the trees.
Wow. Huh. And then what county was that in? Huh?
That was Lee County as well.
Wow. Dang, Lee County sounds like a good place if this person was wanting to research.
It was in Lee County as well.
Right. Wow. Well, yeah, the Moonshiners.
Yeah.
They're out.
If you've never been up there, there's a lot.
Hello?
Yeah, but if you've never actually been there, there's quite a few mountains. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. But yeah, there's quite a few mountains and trees and caves up in there.
Right. Yeah, Lee County sounds like a good place, that's for sure. All right. Well, let's move on to the next story.
Yeah. Me and my uncle and my cousin, I believe he is. I can't really remember how I'm related to him, but there was 3 of us, and my cousin, he's full-blooded Native American, and he come up to my uncle's house and says, "I got a treat for you guys." And I'm like, "What is it?" And he said, "Well, I was talking to my grandfather, and he knew a chief that lived in Kentucky pretty much all of his life, and he said he's almost 90-something years old. He said he lives out by himself with his, well, not by himself, he lives with his kids. And he said he wants to tell you some stuff that he's seen." And I'm like, "Sure, okay, I'll be happy to do that." So we go out and drive down through there and go see him. And he starts telling us that in his particular family that Bigfoot's is almost like a car. It's just a natural thing to see. He said you'll see them everywhere. He said my family has seen them for years and years, and he said, even today we're still seeing them like crazy. He said, I've been told recently about 16 or 17 different stories where some of my family members and some of our friends have actually seen at least 2 or 3 of them every once in a while. And he said, so one day I was sitting out here on my front porch, he goes, and we were sitting here, me and my wife and my kids, and we looked up. He said, my grandkids was playing out in the yard, and we happened to look up and we saw one. He said, I don't know about how tall it was. He said, if I had to guess, I'd say it was probably anywhere from 7 to 9 foot or in between. He said it was pretty good size. And it was just standing out there watching the kids like it was just fascinated with what they were doing. He said my wife, of course, looked up and seen him and started screaming for the kids to come back in. He said, so I just sat there and watched it for a little bit, and it watched the kids go in. He said, and it turned around, walked right back into the trees like it was maybe even depressed that the kids had quit playing. He said it was like it was watching TV. It was just fascinated with it.
Wow. Yeah, they seem to be attracted to kids for sure. That's interesting. Now, the ones that you saw, were they the patty-looking type, or? Hello?
I don't really know. I don't think I've ever even seen the actual patty type.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So basically, what did the ones that you saw look like?
I don't think I've. Well, in the face, it looked like a mixture of a gorilla and a man, a person.
Okay.
It was just different. I've been hearing about how people describe them and stuff when they've seen them.
All right.
And I always said to myself, if I ever see one, I'm going to pay attention to what it looks like so I can, explain what it looked like. But honestly, when I seen it, it shocked me so much I didn't even really pay that much attention. I was just too busy trying to figure out what it was. I mean, I knew it was a Bigfoot, but at the same time, in your mind, you're saying, what else could it be?
Yeah. What color was the hair on it?
But it looked almost like a gorilla and a man's face mixed together.
Yeah.
It was like a reddish brown.
Okay.
And then the smaller one, it was more of like a blondish color.
Yeah.
And the one in the middle was it was almost like a slight gray mixed in with the red, maybe. Like it was maybe a little older than the rest of them.
Maybe it was a family or something. Well, okay. Well, what other?
Yeah, that's what me and my uncle figured.
Yeah. Maybe it was a dad, the mom, and a kid or something. So it's hard to know for sure sometimes, but
yeah, that's kind of what we figured.
Yeah.
Because the one in the middle was actually taller than the other two. So we were thinking maybe that's the dad, then the second smallest is the mom, and the smallest one's the baby.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you have any more stories of what you've collected, or is that pretty much it?
Yeah, I've got another one. I've got another one involving the guy that took us out, and we seen those ones looking from the tree, then the one down by the water. I've got another one with him.
Okay. Go ahead.
There's a part of the wood that's close to where he lives that is rumored to be haunted and stuff like that. And my uncle happened to know a guy that owns a helicopter up in that area. And for years, I've been hearing that in this particular part of the woods, that there's about a 2 to 3 mile long and wide circle that's just dead trees and life all the way around it. So my uncle wanted to see if it was the truth. So he got the guy to take us up in the helicopter he owned. And sure enough, for about 2 or 3 miles, there was just a dead circle right in the center of all the trees and all that, and everything right around it was just as green as it could be. And I asked the guy, I said, does anybody ever go into that part? He goes, no, nobody goes there. And I kind of look at my uncle, and that just made us want to go there. And he said, the animals, he said, I've been close to it. He said, if you're chasing a deer, he said the deer will actually stop and go the opposite way instead of going through the circle. He said it's like something there that the deer just want to avoid. So we decided we wanted to go in there. Well, we go in, and just as soon as we go in, we're starting to hear the winds breaking and stuff like that all over again. And I just kind of look at my uncle, I go, now I know why they don't want to come in here. This is probably an area that nobody's supposed to be in because the things that's here don't want people here. And as I was saying that, I had to look over his shoulder, and I saw a big figure standing inside the tree line enough to where you couldn't make out any details, but close enough to where you could see the outline and stuff of it. And it was bigger than the 4 we'd seen before that. It had I'd say it had to be anywhere from 8 to probably 10 feet. I mean, it was a big one.
Wow.
And with the outline, you could see it kind of had like a slightly pointed head. It didn't have much of a point, but it had a slight pointed head, just from what we could see. And this is the uncle that on the first interview that I did, where I said that he went outside and he heard that roar when he was running down the muddy hillside, and it made him stop. So this is that same uncle, and we're out in the woods, and I'm seeing this, and all of a sudden I hear a roar. We all three hear it. My uncle jumps about 2 feet off the ground, grabs me by the shoulders and says, "That's the roar I heard." And I go, "Yeah, I heard it too." And he goes, No. Remember when I told you that I was chasing something that I thought was a person through the woods? I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's the roar." And I see what he meant by trying to describe it. It was amazing. That's the only way I can describe it.
Right. So it was a long type, typical Sasquatch call that you hear that's got the roar kind of in it. And
yeah.
Wow.
It was almost like a muffled 18-wheeler horn is what it was, something like. Well, that's how deep it was. It was very deep.
Yeah. Yeah, you know when you hear one of those, it's something that's different than anything you've heard before, that's for sure. Very, very scary.
Yeah.
So you all just bail up out of there and get away, or?
Well, we stood there for a couple more minutes just seeing if it would happen again. And it was like the next it made another noise. It kind of sounded like a depressed, like cry almost. And we're just kind of looking at each other, listening to it. And then it just turns into a roar even louder than the first one. And that's when I kind of look at my uncle and I say, "You know what it's telling us, right?" And he goes, "I think I do, but what do you think it's meaning?" I said, "I think it's telling me I don't want to have to do it, but if you don't leave, something bad's going to happen." And my uncle said, "I kind of agree with you on that. Let's get on out of here." And we walked on out.
Yeah. Yeah. Any sound like that is time to, it means you better be getting on out of here before I open up a can of crazy on you. You know what I mean? Yes, you don't even need to interpret that. That's just understood already. Wow. Yeah, there's some of the areas
the only part about that really confuses me is why were the trees dead just in that one area? I don't know that. I can't understand that.
I don't know. That is bizarre. I mean, that's something that it'd be hard to know, I guess, unless you took samples and maybe tried to figure it out, you know. That's very odd. I mean, I've heard of that kind of...
Next time I go up there, I plan on trying to get up with that guy that has the...
They had the what?
But next time I go up there, I plan on trying to get up with the guy that has the helicopter and get him to take me back up in there, and I'm going to try to get a picture of the way it looks from up in the sky so I can send it to you and you can see what it looks like.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Might have to try to get...
It's creepy, though. It's a perfect circle of dead trees. It's just creepy looking.
Right. Well, maybe those moonshiner guys would be willing to take somebody out that would have a camera and stuff, you know. Of course, they wouldn't want to be on camera, but you could say, I won't have you on camera. But, you know.
Yeah, the one guy that took us out that day, he said that he's had people come out before because they've heard that that in his area that you can basically find a Bigfoot anytime you want. Yeah. And he said that he's actually had people come out challenging him to prove it. He said, I tell him this, you can take a camera, you can take a gun, you can take anything you want. But know this, if I tell you to run, you get out of there. He said, because bottom line is this, we don't know what they are, we don't know what they're capable of, and if anything does go south, I'd much rather go down fighting them because I have the weapon and try to get you all out of there.
Right.
And then he said, and besides that, this is my property. If I tell you to go, go.
Yeah.
But he's told me that he'll take anybody out that wants to. I mean, he's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, well, I might have to take him up on that. But I'm sure he doesn't want his picture on the camera if he's a moonshiner, you know. I guess you don't have to say he's a moonshiner if he was on camera.
Yeah, I don't think he probably would. I don't know, though. He might not have a problem with it. Who knows?
Yeah. I guess the key would be to not say, this is a moonshiner taking me out, you know, to say this is someone I know, but yeah, man, I might have to take you up on that. I'm working on getting a truck and so I can get around. I had my car kind of blew the engine, and then all of a sudden the fan went down, and I just got that fixed, and then the washer and dryer went out, or the washer went out, so I just bought a new washer and dryer, and so now I'm gonna get me a truck in the next couple of days, and because I want to get out and go do some squatching, you know, and stuff like that, and get out and go interview people in person, things like that. So that would definitely be a place around here local that I would be interested to, you know, go to in Kentucky. And shoot, if you was to get some on camera and in a, you know, or any decent kind of video, it would be a heck of a good video, you know. So anyway, that sounds fun to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're coming up on another 20 minutes here. Do you have any other quick story you want to throw in there, or is that good for this time?
No, that's all I was able to get this trip.
Okay. Well, shoot, man, I appreciate you doing that. Last time we talked.
Yeah, that was all I was able to get.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good, man, to get that. Heck, coming up with that much is a pretty good little lick of stuff to get, you know. So, anyway, I appreciate you sharing all that, and we'll definitely have to maybe get the Moonshiner guy to take us out there, man. If you would ask him, and here sometime, fairly soon, or this summer or whatever's okay with him, I would drive up and be interested in doing that. Sound good?
Yeah, I'll definitely talk to him.
Okay, well, that sounds good to me, man. And everybody out there in YouTube land, I hope you enjoyed that. This is John, and I'll put the last video he was in up in the cards. If you click the screen, you'll see a little dot up in the right corner. You can click that little circle there, and it'll give you a drop-down menu. And I'll make sure that video and some other videos are in the menu that drops down. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video. Bye-bye.